Hello, folks. This is Joe from My Geek Scene, and I am welcoming back teacher, producer, samurai, K-Murdock.
in that order, right?
Yes, in that order. Kyle, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Just my wife was just playing Stevie Wonder, so I wanted to reply. I'm living just enough for the city, but no, I'm good. I'm good. All things considered.
Oh, that's good. Last time we talked a lot about a lot of things, but this time, starting off, I wanted to focus on influences.
Okay.
So my first question is, your uncle ran the Quiet Storm program, and it was cool to see that you included your uncle's last Quiet Storm sign-off on the song Orange Penicillin. If you had to create a mixtape influenced by the Quiet Storm, which artists or songs would you have on it?
Oh my God. That's a great question, and it's definitely something I don't really haven't been asked about. I shouldn't say talk about. I just haven't been asked about. But man, if I had to pick, actually, there was a couple songs on the album that Orange Penicillin was taken from that were, I didn't realize this, but thinking about it, a lot of the songs on that album, A Mind on the Ship Through Time from my group Panacea, I sample a lot of artists that my uncle used to play on the Quiet Storm, so I can't say specific songs. All, all of them won't be specifics, but I'll say specific artists. So I would say I'd have Luther Vandross on there, Teddy Pendergrass, Dexter Wansell, Anita Baker. Who else would be on that Quiet Storm mixtape? I'd have Sade or Sade. I don't know. So many people have been pronouncing it so differently the last 30 years.
Not Sadie.
Yeah, not Sadie. I think Sadie's funny. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, let me try to get 10. So I picked 5 so far. Norman Connors. That would be 6. Heatwave would be 7. Jeffrey Osborne and LTD, that'd be 8. Hopefully your listeners know some of these people. If not, they should definitely do a deep dive in Google. They're all dope. I can just say the artists and not have to even say some of the songs because most of these artists, their catalogs are just immaculate. Stevie Wonder, that would be 9. And then to top it off at 10, Smokey, I'd have to play. Actually, I'll go to 11. So the 2 specific songs to round out 9, and then or round out 10 and make an honorable mention will be 2 of the staple songs my uncle played on the show, and that would be, one is the title track in which the name of the show derived from, which is Smokey Robinson's A Quiet Storm, and the other would be by a guitarist and a vocalist, jazz guitarist and vocalist named Scott Jarrett, who's, when I used to hear this particular song, The Image of You growing up, I used to think it was my uncle playing Kermit the Frog because it's the timbre of the guy's voice sounds very, I don't know, it reminded me of Kermit the Frog in the Muppets, but he's not a Muppet. He's a real guy, and the song itself, whenever I hear it, I kind of well up because it makes me really think of my uncle and the Quiet Storm and just how much I miss him. So yeah, that would be my 11-track playlist. 9 of them were just artists you can fill in whatever songs you want, but I definitely got to have Smokey Robinson's A Quiet Storm, or The Quiet Storm, and Scott Jarrett's The Image of You on there. Great question.
Oh, thank you. I try. All right. So why is the music of Evángelos Odysséas Papathanassíou, a.k.a. Vangelis, important to you?
Wow, not the full, the Greek full government name. Because I don't know, there's certain producers that I've listened to, or when I think about me creating music, that I feel like, man, I'm cut from that cloth for, like, if I was alive in their time frame, that's how I would be, or like so. The fact that I sample them, I feel like I'm borrowing from a past kindred spirit or a past like incarnation of myself. So the stuff that he was doing, and I got really familiar with him initially by listening to a lot of soundtrack stuff he did, from Chariots of Fire and Blade Runner. But it was really the stuff that I fell in love with him was his solo albums. in his collaborative work with the frontman of Yes, John Anderson, who had a really, his voice too is kind of like Scott Jarrett's. It's just very unique. And the music they made on their first couple albums, John and Vangelis, was just awesome, and actually became, to be honest with you, I think the most popular sample that I took, or most known that I've used from them, was for the single of Panacea's third album, The Scenic Route, which was called Pop Said. So we used a sample from John and Vangelis that was like lifted from his one of the, I think their fourth album, Short Letters, or Short Stories, I think is what it's called. So yeah, that would be my connection, man. He just, to this day, he's still, I don't know, like, he's still one of my favorites, man. Him, there's like three guys I listen to a lot that are like, I feel like the ones that help kind of like put me on my path, and just are ones who are really, I don't know, idolize. And that would be Quincy Jones, Vangelis, and Japanese composer and instrumentalist Ryuichi Sakamoto. Those are like my top three non-hip hop people, and definitely in my top five, if not, or top 10, if not five, ever, of just like people who make music that I really just like, yo, like that's the shit I want to do. Or when I make music, I want to be like that, but myself.
Okay. So what was it about the Midnight Marauders album by A Tribe Called Quest that inspired you to get it tattooed on your arm?
Well, so the first tour I had, well, first major tour I went on was back in 2006 with my group Panacea, and we were actually the openers for another group that A Tribe Called Quest was kind of like commingle with, because they were like contemporaries of them, and also in like the same kind of vibe, and that was Brand Nubian. And actually Brand Nubian performed on probably arguably the best Tribe Called Quest album. There's usually a debate between Midnight Marauders and the Low End Theory, but there's a song called Show Business that features Lord Jamar and Sadat X of Brand Nubian, and they were on that album. But so I don't know, when I went on that tour, I just decided, I was like, I need to do something kind of commemorate like me doing music now, because at this point it really was real. Like, we had the record label deal, we were on the road, we were opening for these legends, hip-hop legends, and so I was like, I want to do something cool, I want to commemorate. And it would have been cooler if I was telling you I was on the road opening for A Tribe Called Quest, but I felt like it still was justified. So, and ironically, when I got the Tribe album, so I'm a big fan of Tribe Called Quest, and when I got the Midnight Marauders, or the Quester, the front cover of the album, tattooed on my right forearm, the guy who gave it to me is actually in a Polynesian tribe. I forgot his name, man. I used to remember, but he was a really cool dude. And when I asked him to give me when I came into his shop and I mentioned like I want to get a tribe tattoo, he thought I meant like tribal. So he was like, okay, like what tribe? And I'm like, no, A Tribe Called Quest. And he kind of just started laughing. So he hit the internet. He found, like, I think went on Google Images, found the image of the front cover, cut it out and blew it up, resized it, and just, like put it on my arm and outlined it. And like, swear to God, I was in there from like, man, Raw Poetic actually took me, because we were in Milpitas, California, right before we left for tour in the Bay, and it was like a 9-hour tattooing session, because he drew it and he colored it, and that shit hurt, man. It hurt like you know what. So, but the reason I got it is because Tribe, to get back to it, Tribe was like the reason why I even wanted to make music. Like right when I got to college and really found myself like interested in producing music production, most of the sound of hip hop that I grew up with, which was that 90s early New York boom bap, was kind of taking a backseat to the Southern stuff. And I think it was just because I was at college, Howard University, and found like most of the people I was around weren't just listening to East Coast hip hop. You had people from the South and people from California and the Midwest. So it really exposed me. But most of the two big companies who were making stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s when I was in college was No Limit Records and Cash Money Records. And that was very different from what I was doing or into rather as Tribe Called Quest. So I kind of got the tattoo as just like an ode to them, and also like to kind of say, hey, these guys helped put me on my path, and just to celebrate. I also I love the fact that they always had some kind of symbolism for Africa and, you know, pro-blackness. And I think sometimes when people look at me, they don't necessarily know what I am, but maybe seeing that is a big indication of that I'm very proud of my African roots as well, you know? So hopefully that all made sense.
No, I did.
Okay,
it did.
Cool.
Favorite tracks by Native Tongues?
Oh, as a okay, my favorite. I'll go by the group, or go by each group. So for Tribe Called Quest, my favorite tracks are Bonita Applebum. That's like a standard. Off the Low End Theory, it would have to be. I don't know. Check the Rhyme is just like. Oh no, Jazz, We Got It is killer. Or Verses from the Abstract. Then if I had to go from Midnight Marauders, I have to say either Steve Biko, Stir It Up, or Suck a Nigga. I mean, that whole album is awesome. The Chase Part 2. So anyway, that's Tribe Called Quest. I don't even want to like. There's some other songs later in the catalog that I like too, but those I think are enough. So from De La Soul, it would be I Am I B. It would be Millie Put a Pistol in Santa Claus. It'd be I Know from the first album. Man, they have so many joints. Saturdays, a roller skating jam named Saturdays is my joint. On up to the stuff they did on the Grind Date. Oh man, so many tracks. And then from Jungle Brothers, it would probably be Straight Out the Jungle. That's probably my favorite Jungle Brothers. Then Moni Love, it would be It's a Shame, and Queen Latifah would be Ladies First. And I think I got everyone in there for the most part. Black Sheep, it would be Strobe Light Honey. So I think I covered everyone in like the main Native Tongues group. I hope.
And that documentary still hasn't seen the light of day yet.
That was Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of stuff that's just delayed, but yeah, I would think that was done a while back, right? Or got funded a while back. Or recently? How recent was that?
Well, I first met you. What was it?
2017.
2017
Yeah,
is when
yeah,
I first
3
met
years
you.
ago. Yeah.
That still hasn't.
Oh wow. And you backed it, huh?
No.
Oh, okay. But you just been keeping up with it.
Yeah, well, I figured it'd be a good topic for an interview with people that were, like I said, when I did my deep research on you and Megaran back then, I had found out, I was like, they both like Native Tongues, and then it's like, there's a documentary on that. Oh, right. Okay, So, no, I did not fund that because at the time when I had found out about it, it had already been kickstarted, so.
Okay.
So.
Wow.
I obviously didn't make it out to the show last November, but could you tell me about performing in the Beats and Bytes showcase? The Bytes and Beats showcase.
Oh man, we had a good time. It was really cool because that was my second time performing at Youmacon, and shout out to all of them at Youmacon for making it a really cool experience. And shout out to my homie EyeQ for helping Bytes and Beats. And I mean, I think it was awesome because he had people like Shingo came out, Shingo 2, of course, from Nujabes fame, and on his own as well. He had the homie Substantial, who's been a longtime friend who I've been able to go to Japan with back in, that was 9 years ago, 2011. I can't believe that was 9 years ago. It's crazy. Marcus D was, I think, supposed to be there, but he didn't make it out for that particular show. And then, of course, myself and Rand, and then we also had EyeQ and Kadesh Flow. It was a really special time, man. And I think I liked it a lot more. I'm very appreciative of both times I came in 2017 and 2019. Very different setups, and I think this time I think the crowd was just seemed to be more appreciative of the turnout of hip hop, and I think a lot of that had to do because Shingo was there, and it was the 25th anniversary of Samurai Champloo, so you had a lot of people coming who were probably just there to really see him and to sing to Battle Cry, which is how we ended the set, doing like a cipher of that, like a live cipher. So that was like really cool to experience. But it was just it was awesome, man. I really had a good time. And I mean, at this point, so many of the cons that myself and Mega Ran do now have been almost canceled up until the fall. So I'm hoping YomaCon 2020 happens, and I'm hoping they ask us to come back. I had a blast. I really enjoyed being in Detroit and the whole everything that came along with that, and seeing the city more. I saw the city a lot more this time too.
Well, I mean, obviously I didn't make it out to that show, but would love to give a shout out to Mark Cooper.
Yes, he was there. Yes, how can I forget? He was there too. He was one of the opening acts, and he did a good job. Not only that, like. Mark did a really good job of hospitality. Like, if you need to know anything about Detroit and where to get certain things, he was the dude to go to.
Yeah, he's a good cat. I like him.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I didn't make, like I said, for the third time, I didn't make it out to the show, but I did catch a version of that show when it was at Otakon last year.
Yep.
Shout out to EyeQ for inviting me out to that and getting me into that. So that was pretty cool to witness that in person, and it just blew my mind.
Yeah, man. I think this year, I mean, a lot of stuff obviously is just on pause or potentially just postponed indefinitely because of COVID-19 stuff. But we had talked. I actually just talked to EyeQ earlier today, and he was asking me about putting together Bytes and Beats that had to do with celebrating the 25th anniversary of Chrono Trigger. And I was like, yeah. I mean, like I said, a lot of stuff is just on pause right now, but I like what EyeQ or Chris is doing, using this whole Bytes and Beats as a way to bridge like the hip, kind of like what we and Ran unintentionally did with Forever Famicom, with just trying to merging like the hip hop heads and the people who are gamers, and he's just doing it with hip hop and anime, and I think that's awesome because they very much coexist and coalesce. So
yeah, EyeQ's a good dude.
He's a great dude, man.
Since you were in Detroit, what was going through your mind when you visited J Dilla's house and the Motown Museum?
We went to, when we tried to go to, Mega Ran actually was on a set shooting a video for a project he's doing with a Detroit rapper and producer Young RJ. And actually, I didn't make it out to Dilla's house. We went by Dilla's Donuts, which I think his uncle or cousin is the proprietor of, but it was closed because it wasn't open that early on a Sunday, which sucked because I'm like, yo, that's the perfect time to have some donuts, like for breakfast, But we did get to see Hitsville, and that was awesome. We went in and we took pictures on the outside. We didn't do the tour because I think we had just come when they had just started it, because it's like every few minutes, not few minutes, but every like 30 minutes or something. So I think we came right after they just started a shift, and so we just bought merch and took pictures out front and pretended we had done the whole tour. But it was, I mean, just to be there is amazing because you see how small that house is, but all that music that came out of there, it's incredible. It kind of reminds me of the hip hop motif and an idea of just like making something out of nothing, or not, like a lot of stuff can just happen from something small. And I think that's awesome, man. Just being there was really cool. Definitely, we were all giddy. Myself, Mega Ran, and Substantial all got up early, and shout out to Substantial's cousin, who was basically our chauffeur and took us around. It was a fun experience.
Do you remember what went through your mind the first time you heard a beat by J Dilla? I know it's a generic question, sir, but
not. I just probably was. I don't know if I was like probably like, this shit is dope. Like, I think the first beat that I really paid attention to from Dilla was Farside Running. Can't keep running away, and I was like, wow, like, because that song when it came out, I think it was like summer '95. I mean, actually, at summer, I remember. Someone called me out. I think this is funny when I mentioned about. I was like, yeah, I remember playing Chrono Trigger all 1995, and someone was like, I find that hard to believe because it didn't come out until the summer. And I'm like, oh man, don't be an asshole. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yes, I remember it came out, I think in late July, early August of 1995. But I remember specifically playing Chrono Trigger and playing. I had a Genesis at that time too, and I was playing Shining Force, I think 2, and those 2 games sustained me. I played them like nonstop while listening to Mobb Deep's The Infamous, and I had Lab Cap in California, which was Farside's second album. Just hip hop and video games, man. Like that's all I was into. Getting back to J Dilla, hearing his stuff with Farside, it started to become a trend. Like whenever I saw that Dilla even produced one song on something, I would just buy it, whether it was a 12-inch record or whether it was a CD. So, because I knew that, I don't know, I just appreciate his sound. So hearing the stuff that he did for like Busta Rhymes, the stuff he was doing for Common, to the stuff obviously doing for Tribe Called Quest, and then Slum Village. I mean, this dude, he was a genius, man. I mean, people always say, oh, you should never use that term, but I mean, when I heard, I've been blessed enough to have some really intimate stories told to me about Dilla from people like Questlove. When I was part of doing the Red Bull Music Academy back in 2005, and he shared a story there as well as a story when I was doing radio for Sirius XM or XM radio on my shelf Subsonic, just talking about Dilla's genius and on being able to put together sounds that sound like loops and samples, but he was like, it wasn't a loop. He actually extracted 13 different pieces of a loop around like drums and put them all back together, and it just sounds like a loop. And I was like blown away. And then when I listened to it and he explains it, I was like, that is genius. And then when I hear what he originally sampled, I was like, yeah, I don't know how Dilla was able to get those parts without taking these drums. And Questlove was like, no, he didn't take the drums. He actually went and intricately took everything around like the drums and put it all back together, then put his own drums under it. And I was like, just mind melted, blown away. So hopefully I didn't lose anyone with that one either. But that shit is just amazing to me. Like that's just levels of genius that I feel like, I don't know, it's no other way to say it, man. He was one of a kind.
Was Bits, Rhyme, and Life a reference to J Dilla and A Tribe Called Quest?
More of A Tribe Called Quest. It was a nod to A Tribe Called Quest's 4th album that, there was like the first album that J Dilla was producing with A Tribe Called Quest as part of the UMA, which was like the production collective. I think it was Q-Tip, J Dilla, Alicia E. Muhammad, and Raphael Sadiq. And UMA is Muslim meaning community, I believe. So it was like a really cool name. But Dilla did some of the standouts on Tribe's 4th album, which was Beats, Rhymes, and Life. So when we decided to do, we didn't really know it was going to be a formal podcast. We had been approached about doing something for this, it was called the Nerdy Show Network in like 2013. And the guy who ran it, Kat Blackard, she was just like a fan. Whenever we'd be in Orlando, would always come out and support. And, we knew she wasn't really into journalism and definitely on like the wave of podcasting before it was like the way it is now, where it's like everyone has a podcast. Yeah, man, we decided to start sharing stories. And the first story was always the one that I thought was just funny, which is I Quit. And Rand talking about how he quit his job to basically become a teacher. And that kind of, I don't know, like, I miss doing that podcast, and we talked about kind of resurrecting it in a way to do, but I don't know, our life just got in the way and got so busy. But I think it was 10 or 12 episodes we did total over the course of like 2 seasons. I think for those who have them, people still ask about that podcast, which is crazy because we haven't made a new episode in like 5 years. But yeah, man, the name of it, even the art, if you look at it, was kind of an ode to A Tribe Called Quest.
Okay. Speaking about art, I like the fact that your album cover for Mood Muzik Vol.2, or the Piano-rama, was a nice homage to Ryuichi Sakamoto's Illustrated Musical Encyclopedia.
Yes. Yep. So you caught that, man. And I told you he was one of my 3.
Indeed.
Yeah, 3 big influences. So that album of his really inspired me. Just as far as if you listen to it, no track sounds the same. It's almost like it's cacophonous, but it's not. It's just it makes sense, but it's just like almost like a compilation of just like, yo, I want to try to do this with this. The songs with him singing. Songs are some of them are long, some of them are short. Some of them sound like soundscape stuff from a movie that it's crazy. Some of it sounds like it could be on an anime soundtrack. But yeah, so when it came time to do the art for Piano-rama, I had my artist Rodrigo Pradell, a good friend of mine. I sent him the cover art for that album, and I was like, obviously when you draw the shadow as opposed to like a worker ant in front of, I'll draw me like the alter ego of the samurai. So he did, and yeah, it's really cool. It's really simple, but I appreciate you picking up on that, because nobody, and that album's been out for over 10 years, and no one has really picked up on that,
Well, I try to do my research.
Yeah.
Pay attention to patterns.
Yep.
But was there any particular songs off of Illustrated Musical Encyclopedia that resonated with you?
Man, let me think. The one track that I feel like that you hear the most, like that actually was the one that got me into listening to that album in particular, and probably even listening to Ryuichi Sakamoto was it's called Zen Gun. That's my favorite one. It's the second to last track on the record. And so it was actually sampled by Brooklyn rapper named OC, Omar Creedle, for a track that he had on his album called The Crow. When I first heard it, I was like, yo, where's this sample from? And it wasn't until later when I started my deep dive, it was a friend of mine named Malcolm Marshall who told me about Ryuichi Sakamoto, and he was like, yo, you should check him out. And he actually, it might have been Illustrated Musical Encyclopedia, he told me to listen to. When I got to the second to last track, I was like, holy shit, this is from that OC record that I always liked. And I always liked that song because he was telling like a story. And I was like, most hip hop, you don't always have that. Like people telling like really fantastic stories. And there's a song basically about him having an out of body experience. And like a crow, it kind of reminded me of The Crow, the movie with, rest in peace, Brandon Lee. Because it, just in the sense of like this ominous figure, or when you see a crow, it usually is a harbinger for something bad happening. He talks about it a lot in the song that basically he was seeing all kinds of like future destruction and stuff. And at the end of it, of course, he wakes up and it was a bad dream. But yeah, Zen Gun was probably the song I really remember. And then the second one was actually the title, the first song you hear on there, which actually I thought was pretty crazy because it's called Fieldwork, and the vocals on there are featuring Ryuichi Sakamoto rapping, or not rapping, but like doing the vocals, but also Thomas Dolby, like she blinded me with science, that Thomas Dolby. He actually, I think, mixed the record and did some of the music for it, and it has a very 80s vibe to it. But you listen to that juxtaposed to how the album ends with Zingun in the final track, in the Forest of Feathers, and you're like, who is this dude? Like, this is amazing. So the title of the album, I think, was perfect because it is like, it's only a 10-track album, but it really runs the gamut of just styles, at least styles that he could do, So, yeah.
All right, and finally on the influence section, you mentioned in the past you listened to a lot of prog rock when you were creating the Scenic Route. Which bands?
Electric Light Orchestra, a lot of Yes. That's how I got hip to John Anderson and Vangelis. Actually, it was like a rabbit hole. You call down one artist and you see how they link to another. Who else was I listening to? Honestly, it was probably more, Vangelis, ELO, I mentioned them. Oh, Toto was definitely in there. Let me see. Who else? Yeah, I mean, that was probably, Scritti Politti, which is like British prog punk rock. Like, don't ask how I even got into that shit. So those would probably be the ones that really jump off to me, or jump out of me, because I'm just basically thinking about what I was sampling at that point, because I was in between the Scenic Route and A Mine and a Ship Through Time, and I was really like, that was the stuff I was really buying. And a lot of the prog rock stuff I was buying, to be very honest with you, became just because the front covers of the albums were amazing. Like Electric Light Orchestra, man, this shit was awesome. Like they always had looked like a Simon Says spaceship. Always was the recurring thing on their front covers of the albums. And I don't know, I was like, even if these joints suck and don't have any samples that, well, not suck, but they weren't replete with samples that I wanted to use, they would make good stuff to post up in like those frames, you know? And I did do that. I think I framed one of their albums, and I also framed one of Ryuichi Sakamoto's albums, which was called Neo Geo, which was done a few years after he did Illustrated Musical Encyclopedia. But I framed it more because I love the cover art, and I thought the name of it was really cool. You know, because it harkened back to the SNK game system and all that stuff. Yeah, and I just like with Neosonic Productions being my thing. Production company like Neo Geo, and like thinking about new ground and new earth, it's like a really cool concept.
Cool.
Yep.
So actually I would like to switch gears in this interview and actually focus a little bit on anime.
Okay.
So is Shinichiro Watanabe one of your favorite directors in the anime world?
Probably my favorite at this point, man, because this dude is like batting 1,000 for me. I mean, I haven't seen everything he's done. I actually went on IMDb just to check out more of his stuff, like, you know, like whether it's like limited series stuff that he's done or just stuff that wasn't as popular here in the States. But I can say for Cowboy Bebop to Samurai Champloo to now
Carole Tuesday,
I'm like, really, this dude is like, he's the shit. He's just batting 1,000 for me, man. I feel like I don't know, that show in particular, Carole Tuesday, just really resonated with me to the point I'm not joking, and I've already told my wife, like, I want for Halloween to dress my girls up as Carole Tuesday. My oldest, Stella, definitely can be Carol, and my youngest, why not white and blonde, she already wears dresses and is always walking around our apartment strumming this guitar my brother-in-law got. So she totally fits that vibe, you know, and she looks like she could be like a little person of color version of Tuesday. So I'm like, yeah, hopefully at BlurredCon this year or next year, I'm going to have to bring them out and have them do it. Maybe I can be Gus. I don't know.
I recently finished that show, and I thought it was really good. I mean, honestly, I never expected an anime to cover topics like gender identities, drug use, racism, censorship, and immigration all in one show.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind.
It blew my mind. And the music was great. Like,
I have all the soundtrack already.
Yeah, the soundtrack is fucking awesome. My friend of mine was like, dude, go on Spotify. And then I was like, holy shit, it's the whole thing. So
Not all of it, though. Not all of it.
Not all of it.
Not that Thundercat track, but that comes out next month, actually.
Okay. Yeah, man, I was wondering where that Thundercat track was, and I feel like are both Ezekiel's tracks on there?
Nope. Those are unreleased too. Flying Lotus, I believe, was the producer for that. He had, I guess, put out, it's just one track of unreleased tracks, and I believe those two are on there.
Okay.
But I don't know if they've been turned into full-on songs.
I mean, even just that cameo, that's really what was the hook, line, and sinker. I think that's not until like episode, I don't know, 6 or 7 where the Thundercat thing happens. He pops up on stage, and like before he started singing, when the guy started playing the bass, I was like, whoa, that's just like, and before I could even say it, I heard the voice, I was like, holy shit. So that's why it's really even resonated. Like Thundercat, man, has definitely been, I love that dude now because, I mean, I've been a fan for him probably for the last 5 years, but I really have enjoyed now because that dude is just unapologetically him, like with the Dragon Ball Do-Rag song.
I love that video, man. That video's great.
Oh, man, yeah. And totally inappropriate based on this whole, the social distancing shit, but no, but like it's, yeah, I mean, obviously everything is at this point, but yeah, it's awesome. That dude is just, I love the fact that he's just him, and it's like, and that's okay now. Because he's still dope, too. It's not like he sucks. Like, he's still so talented, like, you know?
I plan on, like, pre-ordering his new album, and I think I'm going to go back and get Drunk.
Oh, Drunk is dope, yeah.
My first introduction to him was, like, something we had talked about offline was his bass in that Flying Lotus song, Never Catch Me, when I sent you that video.
Right.
You know? And I was like, okay, that's Thundercat, you know. And then when I was watching Carole Tuesday, and then I was like, wow, that song by Skip is really cool, you know. And looked up, I was like, okay, that's Thundercat, you know. And then started looking more into stuff like that. And then when I watched the Dragon Ball Durag video just on a whim, I was like, the video's hilarious, and two, I was like, the song's pretty good, so I've been going back and slowly listening to his catalog, so he has definitely made a fan out of me.
Oh, well, good. Yeah, he's dope. I mean, there's no other way to say it. The dude is just like super talented, and I'm glad he's able to just be himself. He never seemed like he was gonna compromise because he's pretty much been crazy, like with everything he's been doing. Yeah, man, he's just dope. He's totally dope. So.
Did you see that Shinichiro Watanabe will be a creative producer on the upcoming Blade Runner Black Lotus series for Adult Swim?
What? No, I didn't know that. So good. So I feel like I'm gonna watch it just based on that, because I don't know if I was gonna watch that. I don't think I even knew about it like that. Like, I just saw Blade Runner 2049, which cinematically looks amazing, and I was always a fan of like the Blade Runner series. That was probably one of the first DVDs I bought randomly when I started my little collection, because I don't know, I liked Ridley Scott, the whole cyberpunk theme to it, and I was playing a game called Rise of the Dragon for Sega CD that reminded me a lot of like Blade Runner and the Decker thing, and dealing with like androids and stuff. And I always me and my friend, one of my good friends who actually lives in California, we always talk about that. Like we always quotes from the movie, like the Tears in the Rain, and the sleeping androids, or like treating them like sheep, like blind sheep and stuff, like the stuff that Rutger Hauer was saying in the actual original movie. So, but hearing that is awesome. Like, now I gotta, I guess, watch Adult Swim.
Was the quote like, "Do sleeping androids dream of electric sheep"?
Yes. That, and the other one definitely was when Decker is killing Rutger Hauer's character, and he's like, do people with the tears in the rain, and I think that was actually the name of the theme that is playing that Vangelis was scoring too. So it just I don't know, like that kind. I don't know why I was into that stuff, but it just, that stuff kind of always resonated with me. A lot of my friends would say, I've always been that guy who's like, one of these kids is doing their own thing, and they were like, okay, it's one thing to do it, but like sometimes I would purposely, if all my friends were gravitating towards whatever A is, and A is the most popular thing, then I purposely, even if I knew B was probably gonna suck, I was like, yo, I'm gonna do B and go my way. And not to say that Blade Runner sucked, but I don't think a lot of my friends were peeping that out at 18 or 19 years old, like I was, like buying the DVDs and shit, or watching. This is random, but like one of the other movies I really remember watching at that time was Space Odyssey and Clockwork Orange. I was really into some really interesting shit. I was a big Stanley
Kubrick fan.
Yeah, at that time. Like, I had everything. I had Full Metal Jacket, Dr. Strangelove. I didn't have The Shining, ironically, just because I felt like I saw that enough. But I had Space Odyssey. I had Clockwork Orange. I had pretty much his whole collection, man. Anyway, sidebar.
I have a Clockwork Orange, and I've read the book too. So
I've never read the book, but I've heard. People said that the movie does a decent job of like capturing some of the craziness in the book, but I heard the book is even crazier. As far as like the way the violence and some of the shit gets depicted.
Oh yeah. Final question on I guess Bebop related or Shinichiro Watanabe related. Mm-hmm. So, what were your thoughts on the Music for Freelance album that I gave you?
I thought it was cool. Actually, it just popped up in my I had a bunch of shit on shuffle, and I forgot you gave me the album, so it popped up, and I thought it was like really cool because it's not necessarily what I thought it was gonna be. Like, where some soundtracks you just think they're just gonna be a collection of just random songs. This one actually had like a little personality and story to it, so I thought it was really cool. I knew you weren't gonna share stuff with me that wasn't run-of-the-mill shit. I knew it was going to be something cool.
As you've picked up, try to, tailor-make all of my recommendations to people after listening to them and getting at least a hopeful understanding of what they're into, and go from there.
Yeah, it was dope. And like I said, when you first sent it to me, I didn't listen to it off the break, and it wasn't until I was out, like, I don't know, like in transit somewhere, and I think I ran out of podcasts, and so I was like, usually it always goes podcast, audiobooks, music, which is crazy to think, right? Because it used to be all music, music, music all the time, but I was telling someone now, like when I go to Spotify, I don't even, the first tab I click is podcast because I just listen to a lot of podcasts. I ran out of that, so I was like, yo, it popped up when I went to music, when I had my shit on shuffle. So then I had to go back and listen to the album, like track one, I think to, what is it, like 15? So yeah, then I was like, okay, it made more sense too. Because at first I was like, what is this random, oh shit, this is the stuff Joe sent me.
So, one of the final topics for this interview, final two topics, wanted to focus on video games. So,
okay,
what do you feel are underrated video games?
What do I feel like is underrated? I don't know if it was underrated because it definitely got its props, but a game I found myself wanting to go back and play now because it's free on PSN right now is Shadow of the Colossus. My God, that game is amazing. Even now, and that game is now 15 years old. It's nothing ever like that. I even tried to go back. It made me want to go back and play, and I bought it when I think they released it as like a pairing EyeQ, which is like the precursor to it. Mm-hmm. And I think the if you had to do the trilogy based on this world was the game that they made a few years ago that
The
took
Last
like
Guardian.
Yeah, which took like what 7 years to come out finally. But yeah, which was an amazing game. Like just it was more than playing a game. It was just like the experience, like of you really felt connected to the boy and the drag or whatever that thing was too, you know. But yeah, Shadow of the Colossus, I think it's kind of under like a game that I feel like more people I wish had played or will play, and definitely hope they will play now, especially since a lot of people are quarantined and it's free for people who have PlayStation Plus. But what's an underrated game, man? I don't. You know, that's a good question. I don't know, man. I feel like just when I think I found a game that like no one else has played, someone's like, "Oh, I played that game," or like kind of in a way they say it, like the game is not so niche. Like a lot of other people know it too.
I got one.
What is it?
Puppeteer for the PlayStation 3.
Puppeteer. That's a game I've never played.
It was actually developed by Sony of Japan. The whole premise of it, visual performance point of view, it's designed to look like a puppet show, not like hand puppets or anything like that, but like with strings hanging down, like marionettes and stuff like that. So like it's a stage, and the stage doesn't move, but everything else is moving. So you'll like at the end of scenes and stuff like that, you'll see the curtain close, or should I say the end of acts, and like you'll have audiences like cheering or booing depending on like what's going on at the screen and stuff like that. And it actually tells a cool story. I had told Rand about it this past MagFest, but I was like, that is what I feel is a very underrated game, and I'll send you the trailer for that too, because like graphically, I thought it looked amazing, and like the story is actually deeper than what the trailer would have you believe, and it's totally appropriate for kids, you know. But I thought it was a great game, and you can still get it on the PlayStation Network for the PS3.
See, I'm trying to find more stuff that I feel like my daughter is starting to. She's 5 now, my oldest, and like 5 years old is right when I started really. 5 or 6, really. I definitely remember getting an NES and getting Super Mario Brothers, and really beginning my deep dive into playing video games. And not like I want to force that on my daughter, but I would like to just open up that lane. I've been showing her Sonic the Hedgehog because it was like free a few months ago on PSN, like the Sonic All-Stars game. And I was like, oh, this is easy. Like you just you jump, you spin dash, and like obviously there's more mechanics to it, but she's kind of been into it. But now she's been into it like, okay, eschewing the game to watch like the anime series. I'm like, no, we're gonna play the game. But then I'm like, I feel bad because I'm like, or she'll be like, let me draw Sonic or something. So I'm like, yeah, that's probably more productive than just like, playing Sonic all day. Even though, I mean, now we kind of got an excuse because she's home with me all day and my wife. So, but anyway,
Side question for you though.
Yes.
Do you have a Nintendo Wii?
No, but
okay.
I thought about actually, now that we're home, like ordering one, or ordering a console, probably a Nintendo console, because I know that's gonna be something. Like I feel like Nintendo usually caters really well to kids. But what were you gonna recommend for Wii to get?
Kirby's Epic Yarn. It's not like Kirby. It's not like your traditional game where you suck up and inhale and you inherit their powers. It's like the whole game is designed to look like fabrics and yarns and stuff like that. It's an easy game. You literally cannot die. But the great thing about, I was just going on a Kirby kick a few years ago, and I was just playing them all in chronological order, and I decided to borrow this from a cousin and play it, and I was like, oh, this is a kid's game. But as I was playing it, there is challenge to it, but as I was playing, the soundtrack I thought was amazing. I was like, I cannot believe how good this soundtrack is. I would highly recommend the soundtrack alone. So I figured if you're like playing that with your kid and if you actually start listening to the music as it gets deeper into the game, you're like, wow, they put in a lot of effort. A lot of it's piano driven.
Okay.
They could have just sat on their laurels and like, oh, we'll just put a bunch of bleeps and bloops for these kids. These kids aren't going to know the difference. But like they really put in a massive effort to put on a very good soundtrack. I find that highly an underrated soundtrack for sure, and I do enjoy that game. That's actually my favorite Kirby game of all time, despite playing all the traditional ones.
Man, I gotta put that on my list, man.
But that's for the Nintendo Wii, and I believe the Nintendo 3DS. They did a remake of it.
I think I might get a Wii, because knowing that both of the girls could play, like, for instance, tennis or something, that would be fun. Like this, like Wii Sports was like a really fun thing that even now I think I would play, and it promotes like movement,
Thoughts and hopes for the upcoming Final Fantasy VII remake?
I'm playing a demo. It looks cool. I still got an issue with Barrett's voicing, but whatever. I at this point I just feel like Japanese people. No shade. They can't get African American people right in their games, but that's a whole nother podcast, right? So it's definitely took some getting used to, like playing it more action based and not so much turn based, like with the active time gauge and all that stuff. Like, but I enjoyed it. Like I thought it was cool. It looks great. It's definitely cinematic and. I don't know. I've only played the demo. I haven't really been watching or paying attention to much stuff other than that. It's still supposed to be released in pieces episodically, or are they going to release the whole thing in one fell swoop? Do you know?
It's the first game, which supposedly is supposed to come out next month. But with the whole COVID thing, I don't think people are going to get their physical releases, and I can understand that. I'm fine with that, but it'll still be available digitally. But the first episode will be all the way up until you leave Midgar, and then that's it.
Okay.
But it's supposed to, they said they put so much content into it that it's going to feel like a full game.
Okay.
Okay. And I don't know how many parts they plan on doing. I'm expecting probably 2 to 3,
Right. Well, we'll see, I guess, right? But yeah, I'm excited. I definitely, now's the time to play it because shit, we're home.
We might be home for quite some time.
It's coming out. What is it? In like early April
10th,
right?
I want to say. April 10th, I want to say.
What'd you say?
April 10th, I think.
Okay, April 10th. Got you. Okay. Yeah. I should know that because I think Raheem's trying to have the Black Materia remake is supposed to be coming out around then as well. So.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed for all
yes.
of that.
Yep.
So, thoughts and hopes for the eventual God and War sequel?
Oh, man. I know it'll be dope. I feel like, I don't know, like every God of War that I played dating back to the PlayStation ones, I guess the first 3, I didn't play Ascension, and I even have my reservations with them kind of porting and changing the style of this to be more of like a RPG or action adventure. But it worked, and the story was awesome. The little Easter eggs and the fact that like I think even after the game, I spent an inordinate amount of time like going and trying to get like the highest smithed armor and shit. Like I spent so much time. What was the name of that place? The place where it's like the mist.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, actually, I got all of that, before I beat the game. But But those Valkyries, man, forget it.
Oh, the Valkyries kicked. No, actually, I did. I finished. I beat all the Valkyries, even the Queen. But I was saying, spending time in that place. I remember particularly fighting that Valkyrie because you're dealing with the Valkyrie, but you're also dealing with like the fact that, trying to get out of there after you finish. I remember one playthrough I finished with her, but I ran out of. I died in the fog before I could get back out. So I had to go fight her again. And this time I kind of paced myself. I like clear one area and got more of my whatever that the stuff is that pushes your stamina up. The Valkyries, I don't think I've been that obsessed about finishing something in a long time, man. I can't even tell you the last game where I was like, okay, I gotta beat all of them. Because at first I beat one, and then I was having a tough time, so I went to like 3 other ones, and I was like, okay, I eventually beat one of them, and then it just kept going. So I thought once you beat the 8th one, you're done. But I was like, oh, there's a Queen Valkyrie, and that shit was epic. Because of course she had the quintessential thing that all bosses have, which is having the powers of everyone else. So, yeah, it was awesome. But I expect the game to be awesome. Sony, not to say they can do no wrong, but I feel like if that game is supposed to, I assume, come out on PS5 now.
Probably.
Yeah, it'll be friggin' awesome. And even if it was supposed to come out as a way to part ways with PS4 or just sustain playership there, I think it would still look amazing and be awesome.
I'm just hoping that they have more of a enemy design variety.
Yes, yeah, because I guess after a while, the Draugrs and the different variations of them kind of got annoying.
For sure. Would you like to see a remake of Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI?
Final Fantasy VI, probably more than Chrono Trigger. Because Chrono Trigger, I feel like I can see it being done the same way they did Final Fantasy. Like when I look at Cloud, I kind of see Chrono to a degree. But it would be cool to see like Magus and or Magus, however you say it, and Robo and certain people like turn that way or just like update it. But I don't know. I think I would, if you just do a Final Fantasy, stick to Final Fantasy and remake 6.
Okay,
that shit would look awesome.
What is the status of Hero Muzik Vol.3, which is going to be based on Mass Effect?
I honestly haven't worked. I did 2 themes. I did Kasumi and I worked on one for Shepard. So I want to do all the main characters. So Gyros down to Rex and Liara and all them. I honestly just One Up Creative Mind Frame he and I are doing what would kind of be like a spiritual successor or similar to Forever Famicom, but based on using Sega music as the backdrop as opposed to Nintendo. So, I'm about, I want to say 65 to 75% done as far as the production on that, and really excited. It'll be coming out later this year on Random Beats on the label. And I'm doing a bunch of, just trying to work with other NPCs. So working with, I have some stuff with EyeQ, stuff with Super, like projects in the works that I conceptualize, and I'm trying to do a series of, I guess, at least EPs with most of these guys that I want to call Prisms, and I'll give more kind of background and stuff on that later towards like when the first edition of it comes out. But getting back to Hero Muzik 3, like ideally that would be out end of the year going into close to MagFest 2021. So it's gonna happen. It's definitely on my to-do list, my long to-do list.
Final topic, and then we're going to the go home with the last 2 questions.
Okay.
Your main focus has been on teaching, so what do you like about teaching?
The biggest thing I liked about teaching, and I didn't know if I was gonna like it or not, it's one thing for me to have learned and gleaned all this knowledge and stuff and these skills, but I really put it to test when I'm able to teach it and hopefully pass it off to others, the next generation of producers and engineers and I guess audio creatives. So I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed like using particularly music and hip hop as my bridge to talk to students who, in some cases, I'm as old as their parents, and have been told that on numerous occasions, which is pretty funny and it's just funny and odd. But yeah, we use hip hop as the bridge, and also using hip hop as a way to allow me to teach the way I want to teach. So I don't creatively make as many albums or beats and stuff anymore. Luckily, I've been fortunate enough through the way I teach in the universities I teach at, where they pretty much allow me, I have stuff I have to teach, but they don't put a governor on me on as far as like how I am supposed to teach it. So I use my, what I know best and my life experience and stuff, and I guess like transfusing that into my lesson plans and the way I teach. So a lot of what I do is basically hip hop based. Even if I'm teaching things like creating a PSA or teaching Black history or teaching how to do a podcast, like it's all it's all centered around like using hip hop history and kind of the mentality to produce how I do. And the students seem to have picked up on that. Yeah, and I think more importantly, I want to teach. I'm very honest and open about the fact that I want to teach other kids of color, because when I do go into certain professional spaces I've been in, I definitely, I just feel some kind of way sometimes knowing that I'm the only one there, and I don't want to be the exception. I want to be or the I want to be the rule. So it's like whatever I can do to help make a seat at the table, and I can get in and study things and take them back and just tell these young students, like, and these young kids of color, like, you have a viable option of doing a job in audio or working in media. And I think it's important for them to have representation and to see people who look like them, because it's the same thing as when we saw Barack become the President Obama in 2008, because then it kind of opened a door for young people of color and young Black people especially of saying, okay, that's something that's attainable now, because now I can see somebody who looks like me in that position, and I know that I can work and aspire towards being that too.
Are you using I Am, IB by De La Soul as a way for your students to introduce themselves?
Yes, I am doing that. I do. I use that song for, I guess, like my introduction, kind of not a podcast, but it's like an introductory monologue piece I have them do with sound. And I also have used EPMD's Please Listen to My Demo, but I retitle it Please Listen to My Demo, in parentheses graphic, because it's the whole idea of, like, I have the students do a pitch about if they were pitching making content for a radio station or a podcast. Like, you have to pitch it in a way of, like, you have to know your demographic. So it's crazy, like, because when I teach them this stuff, I usually will say, okay, the name of this assignment derives from this, and I give like a background. So I'll show De La Soul, Balloon Mind State, or I show EPMD Strictly Business, and I'll just talk about the artist real quick, and I'll say I got this from so and so, and this is why it means so much to me, and this is how I've adopted it. And sometimes they're interested, and sometimes they're like, oh my god, this dude is an old school fanatic, so.
And I know things are on hold right now, but you do have an upcoming podcast class.
Yeah. I actually got to teach one this semester at Catholic University of America and American universities, where I'll be looking to at least resume teaching that at one of them for the fall. I've decided for the fall is my last semester, finishing my pursuing my Master's of Arts. So I was like, I'm going into my final semester. I need to just secure the bag, as the students say, or as the young people say. But in this case, I'm not securing money. I'm securing my degree, my graduate degree, should I say. And because of that, I kind of want to like scale back what I've been doing, and then I can go into spring of 2021 and be clear to teach. And I've already had a few local schools, other schools that I actually don't teach at, hit me up and like ask me about teaching podcasting or teaching sound for multimedia stuff, which is like flattering. So, I guess word is getting out, and that's great because, like I said, I didn't even think 5 years ago when I started teaching at my alma mater, this would be even something I could do. So it's humbling.
If people wanted to find out more about you online, where could they go?
The best place to go is Kyle Creates Audio, KYLE creates AUD.io. And I'm on both my, I guess the main, I'm not really on social media as much as I want to be. I'm trying to be better at it, which I feel like I've been saying for the last 10 years. But yeah, at K Creates Audio on both IG and Twitter is probably the best place to find me. And then one thing I am working on, and now that I have the time and I'm home, I bought a little desk setup. And because I have a setup to do more engineering as far as like editing and mixing, but I have a setup now where I can do home recording. So I think I'm going to do my own podcast based on Kyle Creates Audio, and I already have like some ideas about things I want to share, from stories like you used to hear on Bits, Rhymes, and Life, to even just sharing tips about how I create. Because I'm like, someone mentioned to me, it's like, dude, your everything is Kyle Creates Audio, but you seldom post about the audio you create. So I was like, holy shit, that's a good point. So I need to fix that,
I would definitely check out that podcast. I support my friends.
I'll let you know.
And final question, what would be your message for the fans?
Man, I guess as it pertains to me, thank you for allowing me to still be relevant enough. Someone mentioned to me like, I used to listen to the Scenic Route and Ink Is My Drink and Panacea when I was in high school, and now they're like in their early 30s, and I was like, holy shit, like that album, those albums are like 14, 13 years old. So a lot of life has happened in the meantime, right? But I just appreciate the fact that people are still supporting me. I don't even put a lot of music now. I'm trying to be better at all this stuff. But I'm an artist. I've evolved. And I appreciate me having this artistry stuff and you all going through these machinations with me, that people have been able to like stick around and kind of appreciate what I do. So it means a lot. I will say, look out for new music. As we discussed earlier, I have Hero Muzik 3 in the works, and I have this really cool series that I'm excited about, starting off with the project I'm doing with Creative Mind Frame for Random Beats. So I'm trying to do more stuff for the label, have a couple instrumental things I want to do, some more of my Beats by K volumes. I think I have 5 more that I'm going to drop, and definitely by the summer. And then this Prisms, these EPs I'm doing with like other, I guess, NPCs you might know and some you might not know of. But I'm excited about that because as opposed to chasing artists that I'm just tired of chasing artists, and a way to try to do something new, I just was like, let me just work with the people who I know, who I've been befriended, and who I also think are dope. So yeah, some really cool stuff. And even with Samus, I've talked about doing something with her. So yeah, I'm excited about the prospects in the future. And the last thing I'll say is something special is going to happen this summer to commemorate the 10th year anniversary of Forever Famicom. That is another thing I've been working on behind the scenes as well. So you'll have anyone who's a fan of myself and Rand, will be a good year to revisit some of the classics, because you have the Black Material remake, which I'm involved in. I got to remake Tifa and Cry the Planet, and also One Winged Angel, co-produced One Winged Angel. So I'm excited about that. And I definitely am excited about what we're doing for Forever Famicom. I don't know if we'll be on the road as much because of, the COVID-19, the pandemic, but the music will be there, and I feel like more than ever that's needed. So
I agree. I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you for that announcement.
Yeah, of course, man. Only on your show, man. Exclusives.
I mean, like, on a side note, I was actually glad that I was able to be at MagFest to catch, like I said, the 10-year anniversary performance of Forever Famicom. I was like, up front, I wouldn't have missed that for the world, and I was glad I was able to be there.
Thank you, man. Well, and look, based on what's happening now in the world, like a lot of stuff that we had plans on doing, things that are just not going to happen. We talked about now kind of focusing on stuff maybe for next mag, So we'll see, and it might just have to wait because these are some crazy times we're living in. So let's see how it shakes out.
But we're gonna make it through.
We gonna be all right.
We're gonna be all right, man.
As quoted by Kendrick Lamar and you.
Well, Kyle, thank you so much for this interview again.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime, Joe. And so thanks for being patient because, God, we did the first part of this back in, what was that, November, December? No.
January, yeah.
I was like, it was definitely after MagFest, but it shows you time is flying, dude. Like, we're almost in April, man. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but this interview was well worth the wait. I mean, I have no problem with that because you're my friend and I know that you're busy with life and stuff like that, so I wasn't going to be butthurt over that. So I know you weren't blowing me off.
Shit. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thanks again. Just thanks for your patience and giving me a platform, man. I always appreciate talking to you because I know you're always gonna do some deep diving. I've been trying not to be. When you ask me certain stuff, whereas before I'd be like, "How the fuck did you know that?" Like now I'm just like, I come to expect that you're gonna do some deep dive recognizance on my career. So yeah, now I'm just like, okay, like let me just. Not even like fangirl over, but let me just answer.
Well, maybe next time I'll just be the most generic purposely just to see your reaction.
Don't never change, man. Never change.
All right. Well, with that being said, well, folks, this is Joe from My Geek Scene with K-Murdock. Take it easy.
Peace.